Well, first, I guess to say my name's Ernie. Ernest is my name, but they always call me Ernie. After my father, which was probably instrumental in uh, introducing me into tanning.
This is Ernie. He's my friend and a veteran trapper, tanner, hunter, and just all-around great guy. He's full of stories, full of wisdom, and he's figured out tanning hides by himself. I'll be sharing with you some of the techniques he's developed over the years to tan hides, so hopefully, if you're interested in doing it yourself, this can be a launching point for you to learn. The first step in the tanning process is what's called fleshing. Fleshing is removing any extra meat, fat, or connective tissue that's on the surface of the hide, so that way you'll get a clean, preserved hide that will last for a long time. So the next bit of the process is actually washing the hides. It's very important because animals carry a lot of dirt and debris in their fur, and for the best quality tan, you want to get all of that stuff out.
Yeah, the idea is getting your skin clean and free from grease. And since most people don't have a wash machine for their projects when they first start, I didn't have one either. I started in 5-gallon buckets. And after my hides came out with hard spots in them, I understood after a period of time that the grease hadn't got out and the pickle hadn't penetrated and the tan hadn't penetrated. It repelled it, actually.
It's like, I feel like we can't emphasize it enough, but it's that 1-1-1 ratio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I use containers that are pre-measured, like this is 1 gallon. And just for...
You'll be making a pickle, and a pickle is what preserves the hide. It's 1 part acid, 1 part water, 1 part salt. A gallon of water, an ounce of acid, and a pound of salt. That's your basic pickle recipe, and that's going to preserve your hide.
Once you preserve them through pickling and the salt, and that's a period of probably 3 days of soakings and scrapings and thinnings, and as you'll see, you'll shave a beaver today probably with the shaver.
A big part of tanning is also measuring pH. You want your pickle to be acidic enough to destroy bacteria, but you also obviously don't want to completely destroy the hide. So the target pH you're looking for is 1 to 2.
These strips come like this with a reader on the side here. And you just, you can half them so you don't waste them. It don't take a whole strip. Just a taste in there, just put it in just a minute. And bring it out, and then you measure it against your product there. And you got a 1. Sorry about my old shaky hands.
Later on in the process, we'll be balancing out that pH level, so that way it's neutral and it doesn't deteriorate itself over time. Now that the hide has been pickled and preserved, we can move on to tanning. Now, tanning is what prepares the skin to be supple, to be workable, and to last.
And the hide is so soft. Everything is soft and flexible and ready for the tan, ready to receive the tan.
The amount of time that you tan a hide is dependent on what sort of hide is, how thick it is, how big it is, and, you know, if you have a lot of hides in a bucket, you may need to tan them longer, but a typical amount of time is a day to 2 days.
Okay, now you can put your tan in by volume, or you can do it by weight of your beaver. And if you use hot tap water,
And the ratio for the tan is a little different than
yeah,
the
you use
pickle.
half the amount of salt. 1 gallon of water, 8 ounces of salt, and then your tan. And when we get to the tan, I'll explain that.
So this recipe is for a tanning product called Easy Tan, and the ratios are 1 gallon of water, a half a pound of salt, so 8 ounces of salt, and then an ounce of tan for every pound of dry weight of the hide. So if you drain your hide, squeeze out all the water, and it weighs 3 pounds, you need 3 ounces of tan. You will also need to add in acid, so that way your pH is somewhere between 3.5 and 3.2.
This is what they call a mineral tan. It's related to an alum tan. It's a high-class alum tan, which extends the shelf life, 30, 40 years on the skin. Yeah. Now, it doesn't leave the skin as white as Easy Tan would. Easy Tan 100. That's a synthetic tan. The product names I can't pronounce, but both good tans. And many times I mix the two. Stretch it open so that it can. Especially the tail. We're working on getting the tails a little bit thinner these days, huh?
And that'll be in the tan for about 24 hours.
Yeah, I think when it has a rotation like that, it probably tans quicker, but I'll give it 24 hours. Beaver skins are pretty thick, and it won't hurt it to be in there 24 hours at all. And you'll know it's thoroughly soaked through. And that's what you want to do. You want it to penetrate. That's the key to the thing, is get the penetration.
But then if you don't have a setup like this, it's fine. It'll still tan in a bucket.
Put it in the same bucket right there and stir it every hour. Or stir it as often as you can, or have your kids do it, or put your stirrer next to it and have everybody just go by it once in a while and stir it.
The last step is breaking. And I say this is the last step, but breaking really encompasses a number of different techniques, all of which are what make your fur have that finished feel. This is what really makes it supple. This is what really makes it soft, workable. And if you're aiming for like a garment quality, this is where the magic happens. So the number one thing, the first thing that's important here is going to be the use of oil. You have to use synthetic oils in your furs if you want them to be supple. The rest of these techniques are variations of ways to break down the hide so that way it's not stiff.
When it comes out of the tan and you rinse it off, you're going to have to break it. And since breaking it, and we're going to talk beaver, fox are different, but if you tack them out after they come out of the tan and kind of stretch them out, you can work them. And if you have tools for breaking, such as one of these, you can take and you can just take it and you just push it like that. And this is a window scraper, but it's a hand tool and it works very good. And you can begin to work it around like that as it dries. But the key to learning to tan and to learn to soften is a process you can only do by doing it. And what most people do is they start too early before it's ready, or they try to break it without it being oiled. Breaking without oil causes much, much toil. Breaking without oil causes much, much toil. Oil it after tanning, then you begin your stretching, pulling, head to tail, side to side, and you begin to work it over anything like that. And as you see it whiten, that spot's finished. The oils that I use soften deeply, but you can't hardly get it back out without putting it through a tumbler or putting it in a bucket. Big old feet hardly fit in a 5-gallon bucket, but you put in a bucket like that of meal. And I guess we could do a demonstration of it. Let's go here. This is the room I use for my softening. that part is for the preserving. And if you haven't used cornmeal, you haven't tanned good yet. Yeah.
The secret ingredient.
Yeah, and I have other things here. There's a lot of stuff you can use for absorbents, but you take it, roll it in here. They'll sand the hide. You get in the fur. And that cornmeal absorbs all the oils that are in the skin. Take it out here.
So at this point in the process, it's pretty much just a game of persistence. As the hide dries, you stretch it and pull it. You can rub it over posts. You can do like Ernie is doing, hit a fence. You can hit it with a baseball bat. You can do whatever you want. Anything to soften that hide.
And you just see how it limps? If you don't limp, put more oil on it. With cornmeal, why use anything else? Now use white cornmeal. Yellow cornmeal will work, but white cornmeal works best. Yeah, it takes a while to get it all out. But that little demonstration there just is part of it. And anytime you get a little oil on your hide, don't worry about it. Your cornmeal, rub it in. Rub it in, and brush it out and it'll absorb it, or just leave it in there and let it suck the excess oil out. Yeah, I love cornmeal.
Another trick of the trade is to use a belt sander, and that'll help you thin out some areas that maybe you didn't shave well. It'll also give the skin that kind of nice rawhide feel. And all of this stuff is just learned by doing it. So in summary, the main steps are fleshing, pickling, tanning, and breaking. All of these processes have little details. I have a document that puts together all of my tanning information in one place. There's so many aspects of tanning that we just didn't have the space to cover, that maybe we'll do a longer video in the future. But these techniques, these methods, they can be done with simpler tools. They can be done with practically no tools. If you don't have a fleshing wheel, you can just use a knife and over the knee flesh. You know, there's all sorts of options out there to get into tanning. But if you're interested in preserving hides of any variety for the future, then it's worthwhile to start looking into this and giving it a try.
Get the saying, if you don't behave yourself, I'll tan your hide.